Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me. Let's have a quick important talk about money. Interest rates are on lots of people's minds right now because rates are higher than they've been in quite some time. They're definitely not the highest that they've ever been because the interest rates in the 1980s, they got well into the teens, would definitely just knock people out today. But with that being said, the rates are higher than they've been in quite some time. And the question is, are they going to continue to rise? Now, in my opinion, they will continue to rise. And the reason why is because the consumption habits of the American public are telling the Federal Reserve chairman that we don't need his help, so we don't need him to reduce rates. Let's talk about it for a minute. This is Jerome Powell. He's an American lawyer, and he's also the Federal Reserve chairman. And he has a huge hand. Matter of fact, he is the big cheese when it comes to interest rate increases, decreases, or deciding to pause the rates. He's also on the record as stating that his inflation goal is 2%, and he is not going to change that. Now, let's talk about how inflation has affected many factors of life that people don't even really pay attention to. Let's think about sports, right? So if you wanted to go to the game of your favorite team, just a regular game, not a championship game or anything special, and it costs $5,000 a ticket, well, a lot of people would choose to stay away, and those empty seats would make those owners or whoever's in charge of ticket prices rethink those ticket prices because people aren't coming to the games. You know, Michael Jordan, arguably the best player to ever put on an NBA uniform. In the first 7 years of his career, he made less than $1 million per year from basketball. We're not talking Nike or any other endorsements, right? Just the money he made on the court, under $1 million a year. By the time he retired the first time after his 9th season, his annual salary from the Chicago Bulls in the NBA was $4 million. That was approximately 30 years ago. Fast forward to now, 2023, where Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors, arguably the best pure shooter to ever put on an NBA uniform, his annual salary this year, $48 million. So a 1,200% increase from what Michael Jordan made as the NBA's highest paid player 30 years ago. And of course, inflation plays a role in this because in the 90s, the NBA owners were able to get Jordan to play for that amount of money. Well, now you need this amount of money to get players like Steph Curry. But let's look a little bit deeper into this inflation. So the current inflation rate is 6.41%. That's compared to 6.45% last month and almost 7.5% last year. And it's much higher than the average long term of 3.28%. And if you look at some recent inflation rates for the US, remember, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's target is 2%. And the last time we were at 2% or less was February of 2021, where it was at 1.67%. And it has been above 2% since then. So you can see the high was in June of 2022. Inflation actually hit 9%. And for the year of 2022, inflation was right at 8% compared to in 2021, it was at about 4.7%. And in 2020, it was at 1.2%. In 2019, 1.8%. And both of those would be considered acceptable. So what really drives this? Well, it's companies that make products. It's, businesses. I mean, if employees will work for less, businesses will pay you less, right? Well, right, there came a time where, for a period there, a lot of people were trying to do, starting their own business and stuff like that. They were giving out a lot of money, stimulus money, and people were walking off jobs. What that did, if you notice, in 2021 and going into 22, a Lots of jobs were suddenly paying more money. One I can highlight is a school bus driver. I remember in my local area, I would see school bus companies were always looking for employees, and they were paying like $10 and $11 an hour. It was a really, low paying job. Then all of a sudden it went from 10, 11, 12 bucks an hour. Now they got enough money to pay you 20, 21, $22 an hour. It's not that their profits just went up and shot through the roof, guys. It's that they were paying what people would work for. So they were paying what people would work for. So if they would work for $12 an hour, they'll pay you $12 an hour. But when people start walking off, and they didn't have enough people to fill the seats, that meant that now we got to pay more money because we don't have enough employees to keep the business running. So the money was always there. They just weren't giving it to the employees because they didn't have to. The employees' behavior said, hey, we'll work for this. We don't need you to give us more. Or maybe we need it, but we don't need it bad enough to the point where we're walking off the job. Let's look at the recent retail sales data, and you'll understand better why the American public is telling the Federal Reserve chairman that they don't need his help. They don't need him to reduce interest rates. Let's look at that. So here's recent retail sales data. It unexpectedly jumped 3% month over month in January. Now, this report came out in February. The March report for the month of February has not come out yet. But this was the biggest jump since March of 2021. So it's been 2 years since the retail sales have gone up this much. And the biggest rises were in sales at department stores, 17.5%, food services and drinking places, over 7%, motor vehicles and parts, almost 6%, furniture stores, over 4%, and electronics and appliances, 3.5%. This type of behavior basically tells the Federal Reserve that we don't need your help. We don't need you to reduce interest rates. And our behavior is showing that. We're letting you know that we can afford these prices, we have enough money, and we're fine with the inflation being where it is. Now, if you want to go even a little deeper, let's look at the most recent inflation numbers. And you'll see that it rose a full 0.5 point in January, more than it was expected to rise, and up 6.4% from 1 year ago. So this thing is not moving in the right direction. If people want the Federal Reserve chairman to start to reduce interest rates and let them start going down, then they can't spend like there is no tomorrow. They can't go out and spend money like they got money to burn, because that sends a signal to him that, well, we don't need you to reduce rates. We need you to keep raising rates if you're going to get these inflation numbers down. So guys, that's my take on it. I mean, and that data that I displayed in this video should back it up, and it shows why interest rates for a while will probably continue to rise. At what rate, I'm unsure. Is it going to be a 1/4 point at a time? Is it going to be a 1/2 point at a time? I'm not sure, but it is likely going to rise, and it's going to affect what you pay for consumer goods. So I'm talking anything that you buy in a store, from food to that lawnmower for the upcoming spring and summer grass season, to whatever else that you purchase from a store. It's also going to increase the interest rates that you pay to buy a home. It's also going to increase the interest rates for your credit card, personal loans, lines of credit. Basically, anything that you can think of that is financed is going to cost more. So I just want to share all that with you guys. Interest rates will likely increase because of the stuff that I pointed out. Make sure you just be mindful. So it's good to be informed, even though this isn't the type of information that you necessarily want to hear. It's good to be informed. So on that note, YouTube thinks that this is the next video you should check out. So go ahead and check that video out. Until I come back with my next video, guys, for right now, I'm 100% gone.